All right, what's up, everybody? I am trying this again. I'm jumping back into the group. I just was on live having a little bit of technical difficulties with sharing my screen, but I think we are up and running now and ready to go. So I apologize for the short delay. I won't waste any more of your time tonight. I want to start by saying welcome to our 5-day challenge. And our 5-day challenge is focusing on discovering that step-by-step process to analyzing deals and potential rental properties for cash flow. We're going to have a hyper-focused week of really just focusing on analyzing rental properties because, to be honest, it can be stinking intimidating for people who are just getting started because it really comes down to your ability to analyze a rental property is going to impact and affect how much money you actually make on a property. It's going to impact and affect how good of a property you get, whether it's a good deal or you end up screwing up and make a mistake. So, there's a lot of weight that comes with analyzing rental properties, and you want to make sure that you're doing it the right way. So we are going to be breaking it down and focusing on that major obstacle that a lot of people have to face when they're just getting started. And even if you are an accidental landlord, or you've kind of stumbled into this, or you have a property and you just want to make sure that you're going about it the right way, we are going to be going over that this week. So day 1 of the challenge, what we're going to be focusing on tonight is understanding investing lingo. And I'm going to go ahead and jump right in because we did get started a couple of minutes late due to the tech issues. But I want to talk about our goal. Our goal tonight is to be able to understand and apply investing terms to your own investing journey. So I want to make sure, I'm just making sure everybody can hear me. I want to make sure you kind of know where we're going. And every night we'll talk about our goals for the class or the training that I'll be doing. And tonight, I'm just going to basically begin going over some of the main terms that you're going to kind of need to be able to use to kind of walk the walk and talk the talk. Terms that you're going to see on property analyzers. Later this week, we're going to be breaking into our property analyzer, and you're going to see a lot of these terms on that. So you're going to want to make sure that you understand what those terms are so that you're going to be able to apply them to your own investing journey. So that's the biggest goal for tonight. Please make sure that you download the workbook for this challenge. You can head on over to rentalrookie.com/challenge workbook. And in that will be the workbook for the entire week. I also put the link to it. So just kind of for some housekeeping things, I put the link to it in the description above this live video. So you can go ahead and click that. You're going to want to do it. I have guides and worksheets, quizzes, resources, listings that are going to go along with each day of this challenge. So you're going to want to make sure that you grab that workbook, print it out, save it to your computer so that you can follow along as we go throughout this challenge this week, and you're able to do the work as well, because that's, one of the things that I'm going to mention here before we get started is the fact that, I don't just want to be a talking head or going through all of this week. After every night of training, I will have something for you to do. And that's how we accomplish those quick wins. Putting this challenge together was all about putting together 5 days of hyper-focused training and the ability for you to get some quick wins, to accomplish something, to feel good about what you're doing, so that that will help propel you in your real estate investing journey. So it's incredible, the power of the small quick wins, and that's what we're shooting for this week. So in the comment section, those of you who are here with me right at the beginning, I'd like to know what is the one big thing you want to learn or get out of this challenge. So I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to take a sip of my water. I want those of you who are here live with me, I've got a handful of people. I want you in the comment section, let me know what is kind of your goal in being here in this challenge this week. What do you hope to get out of it? I know, as a former teacher myself, this is really important for me, just so I can help tailor this challenge to make sure that you're getting out of it what you want. So let me know ahead of time. Let me know what is the one big thing. So what is your goal for this challenge? Let me know in the comment section. I'm going to take a drink of water. All right, let me know. I'm waiting to see. Come on, people. I know I got some people here with me live. go ahead and put what is your goal for this challenge. Is it to just plainly understand terms? Is it to be able to, understand what a return on investment is? Is it to just get the confidence to know what the heck you're doing when it comes to running the numbers? What is it that you're looking for? What is it that you're looking to get out of here? Throw it in the comment section again, and we'll get moving on here in a second. So as I'm going throughout this challenge too, feel free to throw comments or questions in the comment section. And if I don't get to them in the beginning, I will get to them at the end and kind of let you know where we are going with that. So again, if you haven't told me, Travis, you went ahead and said understanding the financial benefits of renting properties. Absolutely. We'll definitely be covering that this week in the challenge. Others that are here, let me know what you are looking to get out of this. Because, I'm here to help you accomplish that one big thing. So whatever that one big thing is for you, that's why I'm here this week. And so I want to know what those things are so that I can look at them, I can write them on my whiteboard, and I know exactly what I'm trying to help you all accomplish this week in the challenge. So let me know, even if you watch this, I know some people can't attend live. They'd already told me that. Please still put it in the comment section because that just helps me in kind of tailoring and making sure that I'm hitting on the points that you all want throughout the course of this challenge. And at the end of this 5-day challenge, you will have experienced that win or a series of 4 or 5 quick wins that can propel you in your investing journey. So why I can help you, those of you who might be new to Rental Rookie, those of you who haven't necessarily been in the community before, I'm Emily Duplessis. I am the founder behind Rental Rookie. I'm also a full-time real estate investor. My husband and I are investing partners along with our 2 daughters, and in about a week, our 3rd child is about to be born. So I guess I should say at this point, disclaimer, that assuming I don't go into labor this week, this challenge will remain going every night this week. But you never know, babies come when they want. So just keep your eye open if you get any kind of emails that say, I'm in labor, I can't do live training tonight, because it could happen. But yeah, we are about to expand our family with our 3rd child. But a little bit about us. Like I mentioned earlier, I was a former teacher. I was an English teacher, so I actually hated numbers. I hated math. I didn't understand anything about real estate or finance. I lived in the same house until I was 18 years old and I moved to college. So this whole world of investing in real estate was totally new to me. And you can see down in the bottom left-hand corner, that's my husband and I, 5 or 6 years ago when we actually first got started investing in rental property. That was the very first check that we ever received from a tenant. And so it's a pretty pivotal picture for us. We love to document that because that was a life-changing moment for us, although I don't think we realized it at the time. Looking back, it has been incredibly crazy to see where life has taken us now that we've ventured down this real estate investing journey. There's a couple pictures of our little girls, Molly and Anna, and then you can see some pictures of me in construction zones. So, we got started. I was totally against investing in rental property because I didn't know anything about it. My husband was a finance guy. He also was a mortgage lender and kind of grew up around the space and the business, and he talked me into it. In 2012 was when we bought our first true blue rental property. And, it took me a while. It took me months to understand what a return on investment was. It took me a while to understand all of it, to be honest with you. But I agreed. I trusted him and I said, okay, we'll do this. And we bought our first rental property in August of 2012. And that was really changing for me because once we bought it, we had to buy a HUD property. We were newly married. We didn't have a lot of money. So, those of you who are out there who are getting started, you can do this without a lot of money. We had pretty much poured everything that we had into that first property. And we bought it, we renovated it ourselves because there were holes in the walls and it was a mess. And after 2 months, we renovated it, had it rented, and we were off to the races. And fast forward, 5 or 6 years now, I won't bore you with the whole story, but, I was able to leave my job as a teacher, because I had the choice to do so, not because I hated my job by any means. I actually very much love being a teacher. Some days do miss being in the classroom with my students, but my family and the lifestyle that Kirk and I wanted to build was on the forefront of our mind over the course of the last 5 or 6 years. We wanted a lifestyle independent freedom. We wanted to be financially free. We wanted to be, have the options and the choice to really kind of live life as we wanted when we had started having kids. And we've been able to accomplish that over the course of the last, 5-6 years. And real estate has been a big part of that. And so while we mainly focus on rental property investing, we have started to dabble into flipping, although I don't teach a lot on that because, again, we're just kind of dabbling and new at that. But rental property is our bread and butter. That's where we are. And we started Rental Rookie in about 2014, I believe it was, that we started this out of a pure mission to let people know out there that were like me when I first got started and I had no idea what I was doing, that, I want to help other people see that anybody can do this and it can be life-changing. So I'm here to help you. I want to help you and I want to see you succeed. So, if you want to hear more about our story, definitely feel free to reach out to me, but I don't want to take all of your time with that tonight. So let's go ahead and jump right into tonight's training and talk about what terms you need to understand when it comes to running numbers. So I'm going to cover in this training tonight 10 terms in this training that you're going to need to know and be able to find out when it comes to analyzing a potential deal. Now, when you go through the workbook, I actually include 17 terms, but I didn't want to kill you or overkill with terms tonight. So I kind of chose the top 10 that I felt were the most important. And I am going to go over those in tonight's training. So again, once you get the workbook, you'll see that there are actually more terms in there, but I didn't want to go over all of those tonight with you. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Feel free to be taking notes, throw in comments in the comment section. Let me know. We're going to start with cash flow. I mean, if you're investing in rental property, this is the one term that you really need to know. And cash flow is really just, we refer to it as cash flow, and that's the amount of cash that is left over after all expenses for a particular property are paid. So when I say all expenses, I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about any kind of mortgage payment. So if you're going to finance or leverage the property, any kind of mortgage payment, taxes, insurance, if you're paying utilities as the landlord, any kind of HOAs, condo fees. So like whatever that total is that you have to pay on a monthly basis to maintain that property, versus whatever total monthly rental income you're bringing in, that difference is going to be what we refer to as cash flow. And you'll hear it probably referred to as positive cash flow, negative cash flow. You don't really want to be in the negative cash flow range unless you are investing for a pure appreciation goal. But even then, I still would want cash flow, even if I was going for a pure appreciation goal. But the long of the short of it is, if you're getting into rental property investing, the safer bet is for you to invest for cash flow, not so much for appreciation. So things that expenses can include the mortgage, taxes, insurance, property management, if you're not planning on self-managing the property, utilities, vacancy rate, capital expenditures, which I'm going to go over some of those things here in a little bit. So you can take a look at our example. If the property costs you $540 a month and you're generating $900 a month for your property from your tenants, you're going to have a positive cash flow of $360, right? So that's what we would refer to as the cash flow. All right. So again, you want to be looking for positive cash flow. You want to stay away from the negative cash flow. And, we're going to break that down even further when we get to talking about return on investment later this week. But cash flow is it's the bread and butter. It's the cream of the crop. It's why people get started investing in rental property. It's that short-term wealth that you're able to build while also holding the property and building long-term wealth as well. All right, so let's jump on to term number 2, often referred to as PITI. You're going to hear a lot of acronyms tonight along the way, so just bear with me. But PITI is referring to principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So this is, again, you're going to hear this around the specifically the mortgage space if you're planning on leveraging your properties at all. you're going to hear this referred to when it comes to using leverage, because your PITI, your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, is going to include, your interest that you're paying if you're leveraging the property, the principal that you're paying down each month, and then your taxes and your returns. So again, this is the minimal monthly payment that you will make every month on the property to the bank. So you can see I kind of have some numbers here to break this down. If we're looking at a principal of a loan balance of $59,670, you have an interest rate of 4.88. You're looking at taxes of $582 and insurance of $132. These are actually numbers I think I took from one of our own properties. Your monthly payment, right? Your PITI, what you're looking at, what that breaks down to is your principal and interest is about $316.25. Your taxes per month are $48.51. Your insurance per month is $11. And so your total PITI, your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance payment is $375.76. So again, this is mainly just dealing with and kind of lumping together any kind of leverage or financing that you're using. You may still have expenses on top of this, expenses like utilities, HOA fees, condo fees, management. So this is not the end all be all, but it is a term that you're going to hear thrown around in the investing world, and you will hear it thrown around if you're going to be using any kind of leverage or finance to purchase and acquire your rental properties. All right, term number 3, down payment. All right, this is referred to as the amount of money required by a bank or a seller, if you're going to go a kind of a seller financing route, to be put down on a property in order to qualify for a loan product. So down payment, again, is like basically your insurance to a bank, right? Banks require you to put down a down payment when it comes to using a loan product and borrowing money. There are a few loan programs that are out there that you might be able to squeak through without putting on any kind of down payment, like a VA loan product. If you're a military member or relative of a military member, you might be able to go through that way, although that's a whole nother route I don't want to go into tonight. But there are some out there. But in most cases, banks are going to require you to put money down as essentially insurance for yourself. Each loan product, however, is going to require a certain percentage of money down, and it's going to differ. So let's say that you're planning to buy a property that you're going to house hack. So you're going to live in it for a while and then turn it into a rental, or it's a duplex and you're going to live in one side and rent out the other side. The loan product that you might go after is just a regular FHA loan. And in that case, you could potentially get into buying that property for as little as 3.5% down, which is crazy. And those of you who are just getting started, that's definitely a strategy that I would consider house hacking. If you don't know much about it, we have a lot of information on it on our site on it, Rental Rookie. I recently, in our Rental Rookie private Facebook group, I did a live training totally on house hacking. So if you're not a member of that group, jump in there. You can check that training out. But it's definitely a great strategy for newbies and a great strategy to be able to get into a property with less money down. Now, if you go the straight conventional route and you're going to buy a property that you're never going to live in and it's going to be a straight rental property from the start, then you're going to be looking at probably 20% down, 25% down, depending on how many units are in the property, right? So you can see that there is, quite a wide spectrum when it comes to down payment. If you choose to use a strategy like seller financing or a hard money loan, you may actually have the opportunity to negotiate your down payment with the individual or the company, the hard money company or lending company. So that is an advantageous avenue for you if you do decide to go and maybe more non-traditional route like seller financing, hard money, some of the lending companies that are out there that lend only to real estate investors. You might have a little bit more flexibility with down payment, but if you're going through a traditional banking institution, you can expect to see anywhere from 3.5% if you're going to live in it first, or up to 20 to 25% if you are going to not live in it. All right, GOI, gross operating income. And we come to this number by taking the total amount of rent a property will generate within a year. And then you subtract out the vacancy rate losses, and this essentially yields your GOI. So let's take a look at the example. a property generates $12,600 gross income per year. So whether it's a single unit or a multi-unit, whatever it is, total, it's bringing in $12,600 per year in rental income. Now, the vacancy rate, let's say for this property, is 5%, meaning for a year that monetarily equals $630. So in order to calculate your gross operating income, you're going to take 1050 times 0.05, and that gives you the 630. So that's how you figure out your vacancy rate. The monetary aspect of the vacancy rate is you take, let's say, your rental income at $1,050, you times it by the 5%, which is your vacancy rate, and that gives you the monetary number that you should be thinking about when it comes to your vacancy rate and for the gross operating income. Then you subtract that $630 from your gross income, which was the $12,600, and that gives you a gross operating income of $11,970. And so that's how we calculate the gross operating income when it comes to rental properties. This can be important, maybe potentially a little bit more whenever you're looking at cap rates and those sorts of things, which is something we're not going to jump into tonight, but it is a calculation that you're going to want to know and kind of be able to wrap your head around. So definitely something to think about. All right, net operating income. So we have our gross operating income, gross meaning, we're not really taking anything out of it but the vacancy rate. The NOI is the net operating income. And this is the income that is generated from a property less all of the expenses. So to calculate this, you first have to determine that GOI like we just did, and then subtract out all of the expenses for the property, and that's going to give you the net operating income. So you're going to subtract out things like utilities and property management, condo fees, taxes, insurance potentially. You're going to basically subtract out everything except loan payments. So ironically enough, I know it took me a while to get this actually in the very beginning. When I heard an NOI, I assumed it was less everything else. This is what you're left with. But in most cases in the real estate investing niche and field, when people talk about net operating income, when you see that number, so if you're looking at a listing or you're talking to an agent and they talk about the NOI, that often does not include loan payments. Okay, so it's the income assuming, let's say, that you paid for the property in cash. So it's definitely something that you're going to want to consider and maybe follow up and ask with if you're ever looking at listings. And, sometimes even just on realtor.com or some of those sites, they'll put, the gross operating income or gross annual income or net operating income. That's definitely a question that you're going to want to ask is, does that include loan payments or not? Because in a bulk of the areas of real estate investing, when we're talking about the net operating income, we're not talking about loan payments. So if you look at our example, our GOI that we had just calculated on the previous slide was $11,970. Let's say that our utilities for the entire year or our expenses for the entire year were $6,000. That left us with an NOI of $5,970. Now, that doesn't sound so bad, right? But if you leveraged the property and you had loan payments to also include, those loan payments are going to eat into that net operating income as well and could, who knows, drop that down depending on the numbers. That could drop it down another couple $1,000s. So where you're actually only taking home, let's say $2,500 or something like that, depending on what the numbers look like. So when it comes to net operating income, understand that in most cases, it doesn't, when people use it in this, when we throw it around and we talk about it in this niche, it doesn't include loan payments, but I would always follow up because I have learned in my own experience in working with different agents and different sellers, everybody looks at things a little bit differently and will coin and term things a little bit differently. So I would always follow up with that. That's definitely something that I have learned in our own experience. All right, we're going to take a little breather. We're about halfway through. Something that I used to do in my own classroom, we used to take a break and stop and jot. So in the comment section, I'm going to take a sip of water. I want to know, I would like you to write me a question that you have so far in the comments. So a question that you have about any of the 5 that I went over. It can be a question about our own story, my husband and I's story, since I kind of started with that. Anything at all, throw it, take a minute, stop. I'm throwing a lot of information at you right now, so it's kind of like a moment to process. If you need to get some coffee, COFFEE, do that as well. I'm throwing a lot of acronyms out there, but go ahead and take a minute and put down your questions. Again, if you're not listening to this live, still please put your questions in the comment section because I will respond to them this whole week during the challenge. So please make sure that you're doing that. I'm going to grab a drink. Throw your questions in the comment section. It can be about GOIs, NOIs, anything at all. Go ahead and throw your questions in there. I find myself here being 9 months pregnant, like I have to stop and take a couple breaths because I get out of breath so much, so much faster. When I get on a roll and I just get talking. So go ahead, throw your questions in. I will get to them here. This will give us good stuff to talk about here at the end. So go ahead and throw those in. I got a couple coming in. Will threw one in. Melissa threw one in. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. As I continue on, go ahead and throw those questions in, and I will get to all of those here at the end. So that's perfect. Okay, actually, I am going to answer one now. Will, you asked, so what is the purpose of finding the GOI and NOI? That's a good question. When it comes to finding the GOI and NOI, what you're going to find when you start to get out there and start to network with investors, when you start to look at listings, when you start to talk to agents, these are going to be terms that are going to be thrown around. And what is going to be important is that, one, you know what they are. That's why we're including them in tonight's training. Two, that you know how to find them if you are if ever in a place where you need to find them. I will say that in most cases, now, you know, Kirk and I are constantly looking for properties. We're looking week in and week out. And in most cases, on a weekly basis, I will tell you, Will, that I don't calculate the GOI and the NOI per se. Now, the analyzer that I'll be sharing with all of you later this week does some of that automatically. So I don't necessarily have to, you know, sit down and hand by hand calculate it. But why I think it is so important is because one of the things that we preach a lot in our membership and our pro community is the trust but verify idea. And that you, it's crazy, but we have learned in our own experience that you can't always believe what you read on a listing. You can't always believe what sellers tell you. You can't always believe what agents tell you. And so you need to be able to know what the terms are. You need to be able to know how to calculate them yourself. So, you know, if a seller, if you're looking at a property and you ask for a verification and documents of expenses and utilities and those sorts of things, and all of that is sent to you, that you can kind of comb through that and make these calculations yourself to ensure that the numbers that you're getting from the sellers and the listing agents are accurate. Because I will tell you, we have run into many instances where we have been given, you know, oh, the property makes this, the NOI is this, the GOI is this, and then when we actually get the documents from the sellers and through our agent to us, and we actually go through line by line and we calculate stuff, we find discrepancies and issues. So, you know, on a week in, week out, when I'm just running quick and dirty analyses to see if a property like meets our ROI standard, I don't pay as much attention to the GOI and the NOI. But when it comes to like moving forward and really kind of doing your due diligence on a property, that's when you're going to want to know what those are and know how to calculate them yourself. So I hope that that helps. All right, the other two questions, I will get to those here shortly. I'm going to go ahead and continue on talking about term number 6, which is return on investment. Will, let me know if that helps in the comment section, if that makes sense as well, and anyone else. All right, so return on investment. I briefly mentioned this earlier. This was a term that Kirk and I used to argue about all the time because I couldn't wrap my head around it. It took me a really long time. Now looking back, I don't know why it took me such a long time to understand it, but it did. So the return on investment, this is the figure that is calculated to let you know the percentage of your return on the money that you invest, right? So any kind, it doesn't matter what you're investing in, let's just say, when we put money into any kind of investment, we're doing it because we want to make money, right? Now, the, I guess, validity of the investment, or I guess how we gauge whether or not it's a good or bad investment, comes back to this ROI, right? So we want to be able to know what is our annual return on that investment, so that we're able to decide, this is a good investment or a bad investment. In real estate, it's calculated by taking the total net income you make in a year and dividing it by the total cash you invested in the property. So let's say that you invested $15,000 on a property that costs $75,000. Let's say you earn $450 per month after all expenses. So after all expenses, all loans, everything else, your actual cash in your pocket, in your bank account every month is $450. So to calculate the ROI, we take $450 and we times it by 12, and that gives us kind of that really true net income, which is $5,400. You divide that by the total cash that you invested in the property. So that's typically down payment and any kind of closing costs, renovation costs, those sorts of things. So let's say you were $15,000 all in. That gives you an ROI of 36%, right? So seems potentially maybe like a high ROI to some people, but just for sake of numbers, that's kind of what we look at. And I'm not going to spend too much time on it tonight because one of the nights this week, we're going to only focus on return on investment. So I just wanted to touch on it tonight. I wanted to kind of let you see what we're looking at in terms of what it is, how we calculate it, but we'll be diving a little bit deeper into that later on this week. All right, term number 7, capital expenditures. Now, these are expenses, and these are the big ticket items that add a lot of value to a property. So when we are referring to CapEx in the real estate investing niche, these are expenses that are not reoccurring monthly expenses. They might not even be a yearly expense, honestly. These are things like a new roof, right? So maybe every 15, 20 years this needs to happen. Maybe replacing electrical or plumbing or an HVAC system, right? So these are bigger ticket items that, again, are not things that you're going to be taking care of or paying for on a monthly basis, maybe even a yearly basis. But the fact is that it's inevitable, owning property, that you're going to have to replace some of these items during the life of the property. And especially if you're planning to hold a property, I mean, you're here because you want to learn about buy and holds. If you plan on holding a property for 15, 20 years, most likely you're going to have to replace some of these big ticket items. And the truth is they're really, really expensive. And so what you don't want is to, get into a property and maybe get into a property and have it and own it for like a year or two and have one of these things, your roof's leaking, the electrical's bad, your HVAC system goes, right? Your HVAC system goes, you're looking at $6,500 or so. I know when we've had to replace it, that's about the range of what we're looking at. And so if you're a year into owning this property, you might not have even made $6,500 yet. And now you have to go and, buy a brand new HVAC system. So these are those big ticket items. They're expensive. And so what a lot of real estate investors will do is each month you'll save a specific amount, a determined figure that goes into kind of a CapEx fund, which is different than like a reserve fund. It's its own kind of fund so that you're prepared when those things go wrong. So, you'll find that, and it's funny because Kirk and I, when we first got started, we actually didn't do this in the beginning. So this has been something that we've learned throughout the course of investing ourselves. This was a trial and error thing that we did. We didn't really save for these things in the beginning. We had a pretty good reserve fund. We had some home warranties on properties. So we kind of cushioned ourselves that way. But looking back, and we really recommend for people just getting started, you don't want to be completely breaking the bank or have some of these things go wrong and have no way to pay for this. Maybe you don't have enough money in reserve funds. Maybe you're, having to put this whole thing on a credit card and now you're at $6,500 in credit card debt. Right? So what we do is we can account for, when we run our numbers, and you'll see this here later this week, when we run our numbers, you can account for a certain monetary amount each month to go into this CapEx fund that you just automatically save each month and take it out, right? And you don't really, think about it. It's not money it's money that's coming to you. Yes, it's income, but you can have it kind of, pinned or pegged for this CapEx fund. So I have this image. I really like it. It's actually from Bigger Pockets, which is another great website that's out there. It's in a couple of books that they've published too. But this was a a graph that they put in that was kind of like an average of these capital expenditures. So you can see down the left-hand side, you have some of these big ticket items, general like average total replacement cost, the lifespan, the cost per year, cost per month. So, you could use this graph and say you go and you buy a property and you're like, oh crap, you know what? Like, I'm buying a property that has old windows. Everything else looks great. New HVAC, flooring's good, plumbing's good. Like, I'm not going to have to worry about a lot of that stuff, but windows, I'm going to need to replace in the next couple of years. So you can take a look at this. You can see kind of, cost per year. This is what you should be saving each month, right? Same type of thing, like, oh man, water heater, or, I'm buying a property, that roof's going to need fixed in 5 years. Well, you can start saving for it now, and you can kind of run some calculations and run some numbers, and using a chart like this, which again is a great chart, you can be able to kind of know how much you should be saving each month, in order to kind of set yourself up for success and not set yourself up for like utter failure or breaking the bank. So you'll be able to access this once tomorrow. I will be sending you out a library page link that will have links to the recorded to these videos if you want to watch them again, and it will also have links to the PowerPoint slides, the slide decks that I'm going over tonight in the training. So if you want to print them out and save them, you'll be able to do that as well, so that you can keep this graph and use it in your own investing. All right, term number 8, vacancy rate. All right, it's assumed, like hands down, people, it's assumed that there's going to be times that a property is vacant. No matter how great the property is, things happen, people move, there's transient nature of people. So you want to be prepared for this. And when running a property analysis, you account for this and save each month for this to occur. So that way, when it does occur, again, you're not stuck trying to come up with a payment. I can tell you back in September, one of our properties that's actually in Virginia, our realtor was in the process of re-renting it out, and she calls us and said, oh my gosh, I was here yesterday, it was fine. I walked in today and there's like water leaking everywhere. Come to find out that there had been like a long, slow leak that had happened. There was mold everywhere. So granted, we found all this out in September. And from September basically until now, the property has been under construction. We had to have mold remediation and all of that taken care of. Once that was done, and that took a while, then we had a construction company go in and basically this was like, I think $20,000 worth of work. Right now, granted, we had really good insurance. So, I think what we had to pay maybe like $1,000 deductible, and that was it. We were able to get lost rents because we have good insurance. So we were able to collect rent from the insurance company that we would have collected had the property been rented throughout that whole process. So, we were safe in that sense, but we've also had this property vacant for however many months that is now. So from like September until now, it's been vacant. And so, had we not had really good insurance, or, we would have had to been covering that mortgage payment. So you want to be able to know and account for vacancies. So, there's a couple ways you can go about it. The rental history of a property can give you an idea of this. Your agent, whoever you're working with, can give you a local vacancy rate. A lot of times in areas, there'll be kind of an average vacancy rate, and you can ask a realtor that you're working with, what that vacancy rate is. They can tell you that. If you look at the rental history of a property, you can kind of look at it and figure out how much it's been vacant, what the turnover is. And then once you have that figure, you can actually determine how much you should save by taking that total monthly rent and then multiplying it by the vacancy rate. So actually, Kim, you mentioned, how did I determine 5% for vacancy? This is kind of getting to that. So again, you can, an agent will be able to help you with that. You can look at just doing a basic calculation yourself, like add the total number of units by looking at the total number of units and the total number that are vacant. And you can look at those numbers, and that can help you determine what that vacancy rate is. And then again, you can figure out what that monetary number is and be able to start saving for that each month as well. And so typically, I'll tell you with us, when I do this, I actually typically just throw in like 1 month's rent. So what would it be? Let's say that one of our properties, its total expenses are, $550. Then I might put that in as the vacancy rate. Because in most cases, most of our properties aren't, if there is turnover, typically get rented pretty quickly. So we don't really see us having to hold the properties very long, unless like we had the issue with the water damage and things. So, I'll tend to maybe throw in, okay, what's 1 month's total expenses that it's going to cost us that we would maybe have to carry or cover. That's, what I do. And it's just a quick and dirty, easy way to throw a number in if I don't have a vacancy rate. But you can ask an agent, and an agent will be able to give you that vacancy rate. All right, term number 9, property management. Relates to actually employing a company, or it could be a real estate office, or it might even be just somebody that you hire to take care of managing your properties. And so as a result, property management will take care of placing the tenant, collecting rent, tending to problems, but they will charge most likely a monthly fee and a placement fee. So, depending on if you go the route of a property management company or a real estate office, or a private individual, like that may vary. Let's say that you hire like a friend to do it. You'll probably be able to negotiate, how you want to go about it, but you will be paying a fee, and that's going to come out of your bottom line, right? So what it can cost, or what it costs, can depend on the management company itself and the type of property you are renting out. It might cost you more to rent out, for it to be, if you have a 5-unit or 4-unit, it might cost you a little bit more than just a single family house. If you're in the vacation rental niche, right, you might be looking at 12, 15% a month, or 12 to 15% off of each rental, right? Each time that it's rented that they're taking. But because there's so much turnover, it might be worth it, right? So there's a lot of different things that you have to consider. Here's the key. Even if you don't plan on using a management company right off the bat, we really recommend still calculating this figure into your analysis and make sure that your numbers still work when you buy at the time of buying it, because eventually if you do decide to scale and you do decide to grow, you may need to hire management. We're getting to a point now where this is like a big thing that's on the table for us, is deciding whether or not we are going to start employing, doing property management, or hire somebody like a private individual to take care of the stuff. We're kind of at that crossroads now. And while looking back, we didn't necessarily account for property management in our analysis. We were just cash flow hungry, and a lot of our ROIs on our properties are 25-ish% around there, average. So, we have room to be able to do this. But I want to tell you, as a newbie, if you're just getting started, you need to make sure that you think about that and account for it, because it could end up being, what you don't want to do is 5 years down the road want to, be super busy and not have time to manage your properties, and, have it be that hiring property management actually like makes you go negative in cash flow. So you want to, start to account for those things now. Last thing, private mortgage insurance. So this is a fee, and this really only is going to play into the picture if you are going to house hack. So this is a fee that borrowers pay to insure the banks if you were to default on a loan. This typically occurs when you're putting less money down. So I mentioned earlier with the down payment, if you're going to house hack, you might be able to go the FHA route and put as little as 3.5% down. Right? That's your down payment, but the banks don't necessarily like that because they see that as a little bit more of a risky borrower. So because of that, they're also going to require that you pay this private mortgage insurance, which typically you'll have to pay a premium, which can be rolled into your loan, and then also pay a monthly reoccurring fee that's calculated into your total monthly payment. So while going a house hacking route is advantageous for going in and getting less money out of pocket and being able to buy a property, you do need to account for the fact that you will be facing PMI. And so again, if the numbers work and you've accounted for PMI, go for it. Like we definitely, it's a great strategy, but just know that you will have this private mortgage insurance that you're going to have to deal with. All right, I'm going to take a drink really quick. All right, like I said, I'm only going over 10 of the terms tonight because, again, I know it can be overwhelming to be getting terms fed to you. So there are more terms that are included in the workbook. Again, you can go to rentalrookie.com/challenge workbook to download that and go over those. All of the ones that I've gone over tonight and examples are in there for you to check out. There is also, and this is my assignment to you tonight. So like I mentioned at the top of this this training, I'm going to have work for you to do every day throughout this challenge, because that's how you're going to succeed, and that's how you're going to start getting those quick wins and propelling your journey forward. So, you're going to get out of this as much as you put into this challenge. And so the first assignment that I have for you is to complete the short 10-question quiz to check your understanding of the terms. I would try to not use your notes at first. So maybe do it tonight right after, maybe not actually. Maybe wait and tomorrow morning or tomorrow during your lunchtime, take the quiz out and see what you can remember and what you can go over. And that'll give you a good idea of what terms you need to go back and look at. Maybe come back and ask questions in the comment section, shoot me an email, let me know. But go ahead and do this quick quiz, because it's going to help you kind of gauge your understanding of the terms that I went over tonight. There is an answer key in the workbook as well. So you'll find the quiz in there, and you will also find the answer key. I am going to wrap up for tonight. I'm going to answer a couple more of these questions. But I do want to say I thank you for joining me tonight. I hope that you'll join me again tomorrow for the live training. Tomorrow we're going to be looking at an actual listing and looking at how to read a listing and what numbers you need to be looking for when it comes to a listing. So we'll be going over that. I'll have listings for you to take a look at. They are in your workbook. You're going to want to have those ready for tomorrow night. I talked about that will. I'm glad that made sense. What is considered a good ROI, Travis? Good question. Well, Kirk and I actually just recorded a podcast on this, because we just recorded one on rental property versus like stocks and bonds and things like that. What I will say to start off is that every person's kind of good ROI, quote unquote, air fingers quote, is going to be a little bit different. So there are people in our community who are happy with like a 10% ROI. There are people who shoot for 12. There are people who shoot for 15. I will tell you, Kirk and I don't really look at anything unless it is above 15%. And that's our like quick and dirty raw analysis. So if we run numbers on a property and we're looking at, it's a 8 to 10% ROI on a quick analysis, isn't really something we go after. Now, I will say that is when we've been looking at and analyzing single families and small multis, so like duplexes. Now, Kirk and I are looking at going after bigger properties, and I will say the struggle that we are having with looking at, 4, 8 unit, 10 unit, 20 unit properties is that the expectation for ROI is a lot lower on those. Then you're starting to deal with cap rates and those sorts of things. So like you have to determine what is a good ROI for you, right? So you have to take a look at your whole investment like strategy. Like where are you putting your money? Are you putting it in other places? You might have some of your money in stocks and you're happy making, 7-8%. It's totally passive. You don't have to think about it. It's in there. And maybe you want to shoot a little bit higher with real estate and go, 12 to 15%, maybe even 20%. We have properties single families that yield us like 20+% ROI a year. So like it's out there. You can do it. The deals are out there. You just have to work. You just have to find them. You just have to buy right. But I will say that my biggest piece of advice for people is you have to have an ROI kind of standard or line that allows you to filter what properties you go after and you don't. So like I said, Kirk and I are kind of like, if it's below 15, we don't really, and it's a small multi or a single family, we're not even giving it the time of day. If it's 15 or above, then we'll start to do a little bit more research. And that's kind of our line in the sand. But again, you kind of have to figure out what that is for you. Average like stock market returns, you're looking at maybe 7-8%. So if you want to use that as a gauge and say, okay, if I put my money there, that's what I'm looking at. So maybe I want to go like 12%, 15% as well with real estate. You have a lot of control over that. I mean, that's the cool thing about investing in rental property is that it's tangible and you have way more control over what this property does for you than let's say buying, Apple stock. So spend some time, think about it. Again, look at your whole investing strategy. Where are you putting your money? Maybe you want to try to go a little bit higher ROI here because it's a less ROI there. A lot of people, I would say, will say 10 to 12% is kind of an average return that you can look for with real estate investing. But again, the sky's the limit. That's the cool thing about investing in real estate. All right, Melissa, you asked, what do you do if you want to turn your primary residence into a rental property? Okay, so actually not much. Kirk and I did this actually. The very first property that we lived in Virginia, which is where we used to live, when we moved back to Pennsylvania, we turned it into a rental, and we kept it as a rental for almost 3 years. And there was, honestly, there really wasn't anything that we did, Melissa. We just put it up and listed it. Like, we had lived in it for 5 years, and so there wasn't an issue with, not living in it long enough. Now, if you are buying a property and planning on living in it and turning it into a rental, you're going to want to live in it for a little while, because banks can get a little fishy about that kind of stuff if you're using financing. So, you're going to want to probably live there for about a year or so, and then maybe start to look to move after that. But there really wasn't anything that we did. Now, I will say that when fixes that we made to the property while we lived there, we weren't really able to capitalize on with tax time. But one thing we were able to capitalize on is that whenever we moved out, we had it as a rental for just under 3 years, because if we sold it within a 3-year window, we did not have to pay capital gains tax. So that's a big thing. If you have a property that you lived in and have turned into a rental, there is a window of time. And when we sold, which was not that long ago, it was a 3-year window. So you'd want to check with like your CPA or check the IRS guidelines, because sometimes those things change year in and year out. But there was a 3-year window where if we sold within 3 years of living there, we didn't have to pay capital gains. So while it was a great rental, and in an area that was appreciating, like, we were able to, net like 55 grand on it and not have to pay capital gains tax. So that's definitely another advantage to turning a primary into a rental property. So hopefully that was helpful. All right, if there's any other questions, you can throw them in the comment section. I'm going to wrap up here tonight. Again, if you're listening to this not live, please still respond, comment. I will be commenting and answering questions throughout the week on here. So definitely let those things be in here. Those of you who were here with me tonight live, I hope this was helpful. Let me know. Thumbs up, hearts, yes, woohoo. Happy. I hope that this was helpful. If you have questions after going over stuff, let me know, but please give me some feedback in the comment section. And tomorrow we will be back. I will let you know tomorrow what time. You check your email, and in the Facebook group, it will be in the 8 to 9-ish range. All week the trainings will be between 8 and 9. That's just what works for most people, because I realize that a lot of you are working during the day. So we'll do them later at night. So again, thanks for joining me, and I will see you all tomorrow.